Metro Vancouver has a missing middle problem. We have towers, houses, and very few buildings in between those sizes. In 2018, Urbanarium held a competition for missing middle housing designs in Metro Vancouver. What came out of it were some pretty cool building ideas, but also policy changes that would allow for more of this kind of housing. Here's one of them. Did you know that your divine right to parking is protected by law? No, not that one. This one. Pretty much every city has some version of a parking bylaw that requires new buildings to provide a minimum amount of parking spaces. Just take a look at Vancouver's parking bylaw. If you're a multiple conversion dwelling in an RS7 zone, 1 parking spot per unit. If you're a non-residential use in the Mount Pleasant industrial area, 1 parking spot for every 145 square meters in your building. It's a real page-turner of a document that ultimately says one thing. If you're constructing a new building,
thou shalt provide parking.
But there's just one little problem with that. These parking spaces aren't being used. A study in 2019 found that nearly half of parking spaces at Metro Vancouver apartments were empty. Turns out not everybody owns a car, especially if they live downtown or near transit stations. And that's a real shame, because this parking requirement ends up being a huge barrier for missing middle development. Parking spaces are expensive. An underground parkade can cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. That might make sense for a high-rise where you can spread that cost over many units, but for missing middle housing, this is such a huge expense that it becomes difficult to justify building it at all. Our requirements for parking in every single new building is expensive, excessive, and ultimately preventing us from building missing middle housing. We need more flexibility and less concrete. Reduce or remove parking minimums.